Hello everyone, how you guys doing? Hopefully you guys are having a wonderful day. Today we are back again with another weekly top 100 from the PWCC auction block. We'll be going through the soccer card items auction off this week, talk about the highs, the lows, what's going on in general, and a lot of fun stuff, a lot of unique cards I felt like this week, and some decent headliners as well. So I'm excited to get into it. If you do enjoy these videos, make sure to leave a like, helps the algorithm, so I'll say it early, would appreciate it greatly. Also, before we get into the PWCC review, I will say that the first 15 minutes of it, I forgot that my camera wasn't on for my prior recording of the last video. I took the camera off and did all that. So it does come on, just be patient. But yeah, just a little heads up. So as we do, we'll start from the bottom and work our way up. Starting with a 1959 Heinerle team photo, PSA 2 going for $120. Del Piero sticker auto. I do believe it might not be sticker, but it looks like it. 2003 Arjen Robben. Here we have a Magic Box PSA 9. I want to take a peek at this just because not something you see all too often. Just pop one at 5. This goes for 126. Last one did 60, and the one before that also did 60, so pretty decent as far as that goes. Wouldn't have expected that. And, you know, I think that's something fun to see. I think there's a lot of those sort of items in this auction block. And just in general, you see a lot of fun, collectible items going for decent prices in a world where other stuff's tanking and can be a little scary. Some stuff's going up. I mean, it's just all the lay of the land. But, yeah, fun to see that price for an Arjen Robben. Not easy to get in a PSA 9, so I do also get that. Only 2 graded a PSA 10, so not easy for sure. This one I was a little, you know, as much as I wanted to celebrate the Arjen Robben, I do feel like Mundi Chromo, here you see PSA Pop 1 of 9. I also feel like Xabi's a little less of a gradable player, not as much of a, you know, name in terms of, you know, scoring and team legend, I guess. Not as much as Robben, certainly. And so for me, this felt a little high, also just because Mundi Chromo grades pretty well in general. 126, I was a little shocked by that. I've seen an Iniesta, I think it was recently, I'm pretty sure go for 100 on eBay or something. And I'd, you know, 100 times out of 100 want the Iniesta over the Xabi. But I do feel like stuff like this does really well on PWCC, where there's just a lot of collectors, so if you get it in front of the right eyes, you know, stuff happens. 68 FKS Publishers, George Best, pretty nice looking George Best there, going for 126. Here we have the first of many Bremers here with a Yashin rookie, or at least, you know, rookie for the time being. Pretty late career Yashin generally, but also at the same time doesn't have anything prior. So 2022 Topps Museum Heung-min Son. We also have a Fernan Torres. And this Albert, I think we've seen this run like 3 or 4 times already. So unsure. We'll see if that ever sells, but for the time being, just keeps going. Lionel Messi, Champions of Europe, PSA 9, a pretty, you know, attainable sticker, but one that I do think looks pretty nice. Like if you're going to go for early Messi stuff, I would certainly want this. PSA 9, good grade, but, you know, I don't know the pop offhand, but I'd assume 10s are definitely doable, sort of like the 2006 sticker. 2022 Panini Instant Lionel Messi going for 144. This was pretty low. I did look this up as well. Here it is, 144 for the Thomas Muller portrait. Before that, 240 just a couple weeks ago, so a massive drop since then. And in March and February, almost 400. We could go prior. It's going to be higher. This is a sticker that I've always been waiting to come down. Honestly, I've never bought them just because I remember seeing boxes of this on eBay for, you know, like 150, 200 bucks. And so I knew if you could still get boxes, and the dude had a lot of them, you know, they're not going to be the hardest to get. Now, this is pretty cheap. There is, I guess, the problem or the, you know, the nice part about this, that his rookies, there's a lot of them. We'll see another one here in a bit. That's an action shot. You can sort of have one where you piece them together. There's a foily one. So there's a lot of options for a player that, again, you know, this caliber player, great player, don't get me wrong, but when you have many options, it gets a little bit more difficult to really hold a sustainable price, at least at this point in the hobby, where we don't have tons of team collectors going after, you know, grades like Thomas Muller. You know, again, something I'm not necessarily hopping in on. Obviously, I didn't buy it, but as that does drop lower, that does catch my eye a little bit, you know. The prices that like Kevin De Bruyne pulls, I feel like Thomas Muller probably deserves a little bit of something. Sergio Ramos, PSA 7. We've seen a couple of these sell lately, but that goes for 144. Next to it, a 62 EDI Garrincha. Love the Pele in this set, not so much the Garrincha. This one actually scares me a bit, but 144 and a 4. 1988 Baggio PSA 9 goes for 150. Then we have a 1970 Calciatore Brazil team in a PSA 8. We then have my only win of the night, which is a 1938 Koenig Nazasi 2.5. This is my first Koenig, actually. As we've been seeing lately in these, I've been taking my foray into some different vintage sets, and this has always been one that's been on my radar. They've dropped quite a lot from the time that they had a bigger narrative, but they're still a really good set and pretty notable for a long time in vintage. And was one that I was really happy with. Basically, great player. This is like a year after his playing year, so that goes against it. It's definitely late career, right? So there's not some narrative in that regard going for it. It's just a great player within the set, and it looks really good. You have the gold border, you have the nice blue and black. I think it's one of the most eye-popping in terms of vintage. Also, you have a lot of fun backs that you can go for. So this is a more rare back. It's not a Ramona or Nil Princess, which are the two more common. There's also a solo back, which is typically about as common as the 08. So, little rare back, fun to sort of have that distinguisher, I guess, or something to chase if you want to put together different ones. Just offers sort of a lot in terms of vintage. So I was happy to get that, and I looked up the price just to generally compare. I mean, basically, it's within the ballpark. There's been some ones going for 60 to 100, so a 2.5 at 150 felt pretty good with the rare back as well. And, before, there were some high prices. They aren't, hard to get in high grade. I guess you can definitely find 3s, 4s, 5s, but at that price, at 2.5, I was happy. 2020 Victor Osimhen, Speckle Refractor going for 156 next to that. So you'd just generally compare the two. I prefer this, but teach their own. 2006 Karim Benzema, SGC 6. What does that go for? We shall see. Last PSA 9 did 660. Last PSA 6 did 400. So depends how you want to compare. I think relative to the PSA 9, that was a pretty good sale for the SGC 6. Relative to the PSA 6, not as much of a good sale. I would worry about even stickers like this at this point. I just think pre-modern stickers in general, I'm very terrified of. If the sticker's been faked already, I'm glad to hop in and buy the non-fakes, because at that point you can typically tell what's fake, what's not. You can feel good about it, and you're going to get it for a discount, right? I mean, this is only $150, but we saw what happened to the regular Karim Benzema rookie, or I guess, the more plentiful, not regular. That's a bad word, but you get the idea. That one has been faked and, absolutely tanked in price. I'd be scared of almost any pre-modern sticker that hasn't been faked and tanked in price. Once it has, I'd feel a little bit easier because, there's less downside, but as long as that downside exists, it's not, not great in my opinion. PSA is not doing a good job with it at all, and it feels like, every month that goes by, I have seen within a forum other people that have found a new fake, and it's just very scary. 2022 Neymar sticker auto. We also have a 96 Pirlo, a true rookie, but the panel not as nice looking in my eyes, but people do like a true rookie. So 93 Abril Campeonato pack with the Roberto Carlos and Rivaldo rookies. Maybe in there, you don't know. Then we have a sticker Verlag Eusebio, early career Eusebio that you can get for a relatively affordable price. Also like the red border with the red kit as well, so pretty fun looking. We have an Arthur Smith 1902 WD Wills. Pretty notable name. If I know your name when it comes to pre-war, you're doing something right. So as you can see also though, not the highest of grades, pre-war UK stuff you can get in decent grades at times. So always want to note that. 2007 Bale rookie going for 170. Again, this is sort of just what's fun to see, I guess, is that, someone's out here looking for Bale rookies. Not like a, terribly notable set, but it's got Panini name on it. 2002 Zinedine Zidane. I don't think I ever see this type of stuff. Pop 1 of 30 feels like a good price. I didn't look it up, honestly, just because I wasn't that interested. But typically, we see the foils go for about this price from the 2006 set, and I would want a foil more than this, so that's pretty impressive to me, especially, again, Pop 1 of 30. That's kind of high. I guess in soccer, pre-modern, where people aren't grading a lot, 1968 Palarex of George Best here in a PSA 6 goes for 168. Pretty nice looking one. A lot of stars in the Palarex set. Above that, we have a Dennis Law 1959. I don't believe rookie. PWCC doesn't say rookie, so must not be, but does a good price in a 7.5 from CSG. I know a lot of people have problems with stickers, especially in the CSG slabs, because basically, like Beckett, they tend to make it wavy, and that's problematic for the sticker. So, that plays a role in a lot of the sales you'll see today, and just generally, same thing with Beckett, but Beckett even to a worse extent because they have other problems they have to deal with. This Michael Owen, I think, runs again. I looked it up. Maybe I didn't. There it is. 174. Last one was 132. Looks like the same exact card to me. not high sales at all. I mean, you're seeing the regular auto of that set going for typically like, 80 to 125 bucks. The orange 9.5 only doing like 174. Michael Owen, not a huge name, but the set's pretty notable. People tend to like it, and on cards, in modern is going to do you a good penny. So next to that, David Beckham PSA 8. These still do a good number, at least from my perspective. They're not terribly rare and higher grade. Going to be harder since they have a lot of color, but 200 there. Laurent Blanc 1985. Did take a peek at this just because we don't see this all too often. 192 compared to 44 for a PSA 5. Last PSA 9 did 420. This one does 192. That's in like 6 months time. Pretty decent haircut. These are just, I guess, the types of players where condition rarity hasn't proven itself at all. And, at 200, obviously you like it a lot better than you do at 400. Is it going to drop to 100? Yeah, could happen, might not. You never know. But at the same time, I guess it's not the most aesthetically pleasing of rookies. But I do think it's nice and unique because of that, though. It's got a little something special in my eye. But I also don't collect Laurent Blanc, so it doesn't matter. 2022 Topps Museum. Here we have a Vinny sticker. Next to that, an Erling Haaland sticker. This one drops below 200. We don't see that all too often. I'm pretty sure I looked up the graph. Actually, I didn't. I just sort of, went with my gut on that one. But that is down. That's been bouncing between 2 to 3, so 198 is pretty low. Above that, again, I feel like all these are pretty good prices being paid for pre-modern of stuff that, is gettable. People like it, but I don't think it's like grail status for anyone. Torres PSA 10, obviously, for the right person, is going to mean something special. 2004 Messi BGS 4, very low grade, but those do very good numbers, at least relatively, in my opinion. The 3s, the 4s, the 5s, they do good numbers for being low grade. I think that truly shows people care about the cards in soccer, which I like. I think that's good. 1996, we have a Ronaldo Panini Calcio PSA 9. Really fun looking Ronaldo, goes for 200. Above that, we have another Thomas Muller. This is one of the, variants in terms of what you can get. Goes for 216, pop one of 15 here. I like the portrait better, but I know some people feel the opposite way, so to each their own. 2004 foil Messi 6.5 for, reasonable price. That's about what they go for. The Bergman Beckenbauers continue being beaten up. This goes for 216, though. I think it looks pretty good. I mean, the front, off center, but nothing noticeably wrong. And the back, I mean, there's a little bit of changing color, but generally I think that's pretty good. Camera's now on. I've only just now realized that it's been off this whole time. Forgive me. You can now see my face. Nonetheless, here we are with the Beckenbauer 2.5. So I think this looks pretty good. I mean, the back, you can tell a little bit of discoloration. But yeah, generally, I think it looks good for 2.5. We'll see one later that I think is the total opposite of that here in a bit. So 1953, this is basically the chocolate Kubala. The Subia set is one that basically on the back, you can see chocolates. It's distributed with chocolate in it. Typically, there's, some sort of markings that, the chocolate rubbed up against the card, and you can kind of tell that way. This one doesn't have any of the markings, which is why it grades so high. Does a pretty good price too. Pop one of 2, none higher. Next to that, a BGS 4 Messi going for 228, along with a Sicker Verlag PSA 8 from the Cruyff rookie set going for 234 and a PSA 8 for the Eusebio. We got a couple Messis above that. A PSA 8 of his 2006 World Cup card going for 240. We have the purple 2018 and a PSA 10 going for 264. Here we have a 1925 Dixie Dean team picture. 1925 is his rookie year. I don't know if it's his rookie year for team photos, though, so that's a caveat that I can't throw out there. It does 264, pop one of 2, one higher. Above that, we have a Yashin 1958 Monty Gum in a 5 doing 288. Declan Rice out of 5. We have a Xavi PSA 9 going for 300. Decent price. I've seen these have been dropping. And again, I mentioned the Iniesta earlier that I saw. I mean, Xavi does a good number comparatively. PSA 9 of the 2005 Panini sticker for Messi going for 324. Rookie goes for 4,000 to 5,000 lately, so 300. Typically, when I go from first year to second year, there's a 10 to 20x multiplier somewhere in there. It's very difficult, tricky to do, but that's just sort of what I do in my head. So this fits within that realm and sort of makes sense, I guess, to me. the multiplier is a good discussion, and really what it should be, I guess, is a fair question. But that's typically what I've noticed. Here we have a 1952-53 Bruguera Kubala in a PSA 6. Really, really nice looking here. Love the flag in the background, the ominous sort of head cutout. There's many like that in the 50s, I feel like, for some reason. Don't know why it seems at least particularly to the 50s to me, but maybe they just sort of got into the whole photoshopping thing and are just messing around with it. But yeah, very cool to see, and we'll keep it moving. So 1958, we have a Pele Vava Yashin PSA 6 here, going for $348. Nice action shot here of a couple celebrating, and presumably this ball getting kicked off somewhere. Here we have a Gavi out of 11 going for $372. We have a Paolo Rossi Ancelotti Dino Zoff auto for $372. This gets run again. I looked at the price and basically it did near the same last time. I don't know if it got rerun because they're not paid or if someone just bought it and sold it, but it's pop 1 of 1. So interesting to see it go again that soon. 1966 Pele here, the Kunold in a SGC 6.5 goes for almost $400. Mega Cracks Pack PSA 9 goes for $400 as well. Decent price, fun price. If you do the math, I mean, it's kind of high, it feels like, but at the same time, Mega Cracks Pack, I could see why someone would be very interested. Here we have a 2004 Catalan BGS 7 Messi going for $400. Feels about in the ballpark of what we've seen. 3.5 Pele from the Verlag set here, sort of the, crying Pele. 408 for a 3.5, not too shabby. PSA 10 Marbled Messi from 2008 Monday Chromo does a good number at $420. Obviously, a good amount of Messi collectors for whatever the case may be. Monday Chromo has a lot of fun ones, at least from my eyes, but they don't get as much love because they're a bit more common and harder to sort of sort out in my mind. 1966, here we have a nice looking Pele. I'm guessing, I thought a postcard, maybe not. Don't see that all too often, at least I haven't popped one of 5 for higher, so not incredibly rare, but is what it is. BGS 8 goes for near 500 of this Messi, a Campy O of the white version that people don't prefer. About in line. Here we have a Suarez. This felt pretty high, at least relatively, because a lot of the 6s and 7s for these are pretty plentiful at very low prices, because these still get graded. This is pop 1 of 6, just 1 higher, so still very high grade. 8's hard to get. 7's usually about as high as you're going to go. This one does near 500. The last one did 203, and then before that 432. So that feels really high. I'm interested in why that is. Maybe this one. I guess the color doesn't look as good to me. Yeah, I mean, maybe it's just the photo, but yeah, it doesn't look as good to me. I get that. Both graded very recent though, so that's also to note. Keeping it moving, 2011. This says a rookie for KDB. It is not a rookie, but it's PSA 10 second year going for 500. We have another Bremer here, 3.5 with Pele going for 516. A Kylian Mbappe 2017 Panini France foot sticker. You don't see this all too often, going for 540 and a PSA 10. Couple Peles here with the Alan Ginter auto at 550, and also the Baggioli here in a 3. I did look this up. There will be another one later that we'll see too, but pretty decent prices. I mean, this does 564 and also 840. Comparatively, there was a PSA 5 for 750 recently, so decent prices. There was also PSA 8 for 1800. So feels pretty strong for a 4.5 and a 3. We'll see the 4.5 here in a bit. BGS 8 of the Catalan Blue Messi going for 630. Always does a little bit of a premium compared to the green, and a good bit of a premium over the white. Seems to be pretty cemented at this point. I think that's what people prefer, and personally I agree. We have a 1992 Zinedine Zidane PSA 8 going for 630. Did look this up just because you don't see it all too often. Last sale was about a month ago for 810. Before that, April for 870. This is one of the cards I think, sort of exemplifies what I look to avoid in soccer cards. Like, just looking at this card, I think it's a great Zidane. Like, I would like to own it at one point. Now, whether or not, I'm willing to shell out $630 for it, that's a different question. And also, when you see the trend line, I don't feel good about it, right? 2021 was 2,000, sort of dropped to 1,000 last year, and now has sort of dropped to 800 in early parts of this year, now has dropped to 600. And it's just one of those cards where when you keep seeing that drop happen, and there's no real history of it ever being very high, make you wonder. I know that that's a case for a lot of different soccer things, but in particular, there are certain ones where you can tell they went from basically, no sort of hobby relevancy to major hobby relevancy, and now they're on that fall back, and where they fall, like most things, you just got to figure it out on your own, decide what you want to decide. We have a 66 Arnold here, Pele, I'd assume from the same set as the other one, or I guess that is the same exact as the other one, never mind, I lie. Not a huge difference between a PSA 6 and a 3, I wonder why that is, only a couple $100. Pop 1 of 1, just one higher. Also graded recently, along with the other slab, which was also graded recently. So, always something to note. This too was graded recently, but pretty big sticker with the Bobby Moore 1963 San Giorgio. I looked this up. I was partially interested just because I had been actually starting to build the San Giorgio set. I like the look of it quite a lot, and I know that this is basically, you know, sort of the card you want in it, or the sticker. Didn't go after it though, just because, I mean, I guess compared to this 2, that was a really low sale, so maybe that looks really good. Sort of doing my multipliers from an 8 to a 4, I didn't feel as good about sort of where its price was at. I thought it would go a little higher, but yeah, Pop 1 of 1, just 2 higher, goes for $630. Really cool sticker to me. Says 63, basically, from what I understand, it's sort of like the Vanderhoot, where it could be 62. It's most likely 62, but could also be 63, and so there's, you know, sort of a debate to be had there. We have another 58 Bremer Pele in a PSA 3 going for $630. And then we have what, you know, is the one consistency in my life. Every single week, I know that there's going to be an Erling Haaland Sapphire selling between $700 and $800 on the PWCC Weekly. And yet again, here it is. So we got it. We have completed the weekly task, and I'm happy to move on. 58 Titulares PSA 6, pretty good grade of a Brazilian team, going for $750 there. Above that, we have a 2016 PSA 9 Kylian Mbappe foot. It felt pretty light. I've been seeing these go from, you know, near 800 and 900, so 780 a little low. Cristiano Ronaldo sticker auto out of 15 goes for $810. We also have a Paolo Maldini PSA 2.5 going for $810 next to it. Pop 1 of 1, 5 higher. Pretty rare. The Forza goal is sort of the elusive chase for both Baggio and Maldini. There's been a decent amount selling lately, but generally that's not the case. Looking at the sales here, you know, this year we have had 3 sales. Last year we had 3 sales, and that's about all we can see. In August, a PSA 3 went for $829 on best offer, and this PSA 2.5 goes for $810. Feels like a decent sign, but in a market where you don't have, you know, tons of sales, hard to really tell. This PSA 3 before was $1230, so this is one that hasn't really fallen too much. To me, that's a little worrying. I would like to see something like this maybe fall a little bit before I hop in. But $810, I mean, it's hard to get, I understand. But there is a Baggio that we'll see here in a bit that looks either really cheap compared to this, or I guess maybe this is expensive, or there's also sort of a grading question, like there will be in a couple things we'll talk about, so that'll be fun. Always loved, you know, debating PSA grades. You got to check the back of everything. See, like even right here, this is a PSA 6 goes for $810. I didn't even check this beforehand, but I can already see like parts in the back where the color's off. I can see like the staining up here. Gosh, man. And that's, you know, I feel like a lot of vintage pops really just got wrecked by PSA, and they're doing it no favors. But $810 for that Vanderhoot. I think I looked that up, but after seeing the back on it, now I just don't want to look it up. Okay, never mind. We won't talk about it. Beckenbauer PSA 4. This looks pretty good. I mean, the back looks clean, you know, not much change in color. Typically, that's what I look for to tell if something's been stuck or not without actually, you know, if it's not noticeable to the naked eye. Usually I look for corners. If there's worn corners, I feel good that, you know, it's a raw card that's been out in the wild. Also on the back, you know, you want a sort of even color would be ideal. And then, you know, you want to look for any paper loss or text missing. And this, I mean, looks pretty crispy. There'll be other ones that you see where there's just crackling in all of the letters, and usually that's a dead giveaway to me. Next to that, pretty rare Di Stefano here, 5.5 in a Pop 1 none higher, goes for $810. Like the duality between the blue and the orange. I don't think I've seen many stickers like that in my time. Baggioli, here's the 4.5 that we saw earlier in sales history, going for $840. We have a Baggio on-card Eminence going for $930 here, a numbered out of 5, 2018. We have a Kitty Puskás in a SGC 4. Did look this up. This does $930 with the eye appeal. Last one did $930 without the eye appeal. So, I mean, from my perspective, that's a little bit of a drop, but also SGC to PSA, you know, that's all a difference in and of itself. So, it seems pretty comparable. We have a Heinerle 4.5 Pele going for $1230. We've been seeing 3s go for 600-700, so that's relatively in line. Pretty good copy from my perspective. Front's very clean. The back had a little staining at the bottom, but that's not anything crazy, I don't think, for a 4. Here we have a PSA 4 of the 2002-2003 Ronaldo Mega Cracks, and basically pretty good sale, I would say. I mean, the last PSA 4 did 1380, and a lot of people are basically burying Ronaldo at the moment, and so if that's the case, you would assume a little bit of a dip. Not really. Obviously, these have been hit hard already, so maybe they're just not going to take as much of a dive. But again, this is one of them where, in a PSA 4, sure, it dropped. Like, it was 3,600 at the peak, and now it's, 1,400. That's not great, right? But for a lot of people, I mean, if you were still buying this when prices were high, you were paying maybe $2 to $3 grand, and now it's worth $1.5. And yeah, that's not great, but, again, comparatively to a lot of, like, the great cards that people were talking about, or the investable cards that people were talking about, some of them got slaughtered. So, again, collectible grades doing pretty good. Generally, that seems to be the case. PSA 9 Campio Messi going for 1,600. Feels a little light. I would have expected this closer to 2K, but at the same time, hard to expect high sales for Messi when they've all felt pretty high for a bit, to my mind. But 1,600 there seems pretty decent. Here we have a SGC 4 Pele here. Love seeing the duality between these two, just getting up all the time during that 58 World Cup. Fun in-action shots. That one goes for 2,000. Pop one of 1, 2 higher. Here we have a PSA 6 2004 Messi Mega Cracks going for 3,100. That is essentially right in line with past sales. We could look at a graph, but I can tell you that is where they've been. 3,800 for this PSA 7 Forza Goal Baggio. This is what I was talking about. This seems really, really cheap. I mean, 3,800. Now, we can talk about it. This does have an eye appeal sticker for top 15% and a gold NBA sticker. So, I mean, this has got all the stickers on it and still does not sell well at all. I would have figured that this did way more. Basically, reason being, if we sort by price all time for Baggio, the lowest ever sale, at least publicly, that Card Ladder's tracking is 1,400 for PSA 2. Then we have 1,900 for PSA 2. 2.5 for 2,100, and then PSA 6 for 3,300. So obviously the PSA 6 is showing you that they can get low, but this in a 7 with an eye appeal and with a sticker does 38. Feels incredibly low. I mean, if we look at, high sales in the past, a 4 at one point did 33,000. Now, I'm imagining that is a real sale. That's sort of what brought a lot of these out of the woodwork. So, yeah, I mean, they've dropped quite a bit. I would feel really, really comfortable if I was a buyer of this. I feel, whoever bought this, I think did a great job, but not that they need my approval. The one thing is, I guess on the back, there's some staining, and it looks, a little iffy for a 7. I guess, like down here, you got some staining going on down there, up here, so again, how that got 2 stickers for a 7, I don't know. I mean, I understand it's got good color, it's centered. Maybe it looks perfect. Other than that, maybe they deserve the stickers and all that. I don't know if I'm convinced, but nonetheless, I guess at that price point, it seems accounted for to me. Then we get into the top 6. So we have a 2016 Mbappe Panini foot going for 4,200 in a PSA 10. About right in line. I typically think of these as being between 3.5 and 5K, so that seems to make sense. PSA 10 Messi, these usually are near 5, so that's near 5. Again, makes sense. This is a Campy O. This was incredibly low. Again, another sticker where the sticker does not matter from NBA, or at least it doesn't seem to. PSA 9 of the record, basically as high as you're going to get. It's pop 1 of 11, 2 higher. So, obviously could be possible. I would imagine also people tried as hard as they could to get this up there in grade, because there is barely any border. That was probably cut a fair few times. But it got a 9 at the end of the day and a sticker. And when we compare it backwards, the last 9 just a few months ago was the single panel of Pele, and we had 12,000 and 9,000. I guess before this, we actually had a sale for 6,000 back in December. So maybe this isn't as low as I thought it was. But basically, I mean, if you look at other record sales, if I take out we'll just take out PSA 9. What does other record sales look like? I think the low grades do decent numbers, at least for a 9 being of this price, right? Last panel and a 2 did 840. I'd be terrified of owning, a lower grade of these when the high grades are only 5K. Again, this PSA 7 does 3,500. I would so much rather pay that. Obviously you're talking $2,000. It's not chump change, but if you're buying something of that caliber, you should be able to upgrade a little bit at some point in time. PSA 9, really good grade, But again, this is a cutout that, has their names wrong, has another player on it, isn't the most aesthetically pleasing. So there's a lot going against it. So I get that, but also just comparing backwards seems like a low price. And then the top three, pretty big top three. We've never had this sell, at least in any of these auctions. I have not seen it. I did look at comps just to see what it did, and well, I know it did 6,900 for the BGS 9, but the last two did PSA 10 for 7,500, and then this also says a PSA 10 for 7,500, and those are basically like the same seller 3 days apart. So now that I look at this, I don't even know how much to trust it. But yeah, I guess that looks low to me, at least comparative to this. But again, I can't make anything of it. This is probably one of my least favorite soccer cards in existence, just because so many people flex it, and I do not care an iota about it. It is a sticker auto of Kobe Bryant on a soccer card. To me, that is a worthless card, but to others, it is a $7,000 card. So to each their own. Everyone has their own style. We have a Pele 1958 Aquarella and a BBG 6.5 going for $7,500. Didn't look this up just because, honestly, we see a lot of, Pele Aquarellas, so we looked that up quite a bit. Also, BVG 6.5, so going to be hard to comp. We know that the ones and the twos are 1,000 to 2,000, so a BVG 6.5 at this doesn't seem crazy. And then leading the pack this week, we have a 1977 crack Diego Maradona Football Campeonato disc. So this is the Pog style rookie for Diego Maradona here. Pretty nice looking. I mean, generally speaking, what you want to look for is just, not being stuck on the back. You want no paper loss, ideally. From what I understand, the notches on the side are actually a good thing. You'd rather have them than not because it helps show authenticity, since that is how they were removed. They're not, a bad thing on the card. They might not be the most visually appealing, but it doesn't look too bad. Generally, you want the image on the front to appear somewhat clear. To me, that's not bad at all, especially for a lot of Maradona early stuff. There can be, very terribly printed items, and so this one doesn't feel that bad, and price also reflects that. Decent price. This one does 10.5K. Last one did 8.4 in March, and then prior to that, what do we have? We had an 8.9 in January. Was a little higher if we go earlier. I guess actually not that bad. There was an SGC one that's still pretty high, but generally that is pretty much in line, and definitely a cool one to see in a pretty high grade sell on this weekly. So generally, some pretty big cards. I mean, there are some weeks lately where we haven't seen almost any big cards, and this week we had quite a few. I mean, the top of the list were some bangers, and even beneath that, we had a nice layer of some really cool cards. So overall, enjoyed this weekly. Hopefully you did too. Of course, if you did, make sure to leave a like. Would appreciate it greatly. If you want to see more videos like this as soon as we go live, make sure to subscribe, and would also love to hear your thoughts down below in a comment. If you enjoyed it, what you thought sold high or low, anything, would love to chat with you there. And if you want to see more videos like this as soon as we go live, make sure to subscribe. But with that said, hopefully have a wonderful day, and peace.